Hello and welcome. This is Vinod Kumar welcoming you again to this episode of Enterprise Matters. We all know that India's e commerce ecosystem has emerged as a very powerful engine, primarily for democratizing market access for micro, small, medium enterprises, breaking all traditional barriers of geography, distribution, and capital by integrating digital marketplaces, logistics, payments, and embedded finance into what we now know is a unified infrastructure. Platforms such as Amazon, Flipkart, Meesho, and so many others are enabling millions of micro, small, medium enterprises, including those that are in tier 2, tier 3 regions. We're talking about women led businesses, cluster based producers, self help groups. All of these are able to access national and global markets with minimal upfront investment. It's this transformation that India SME Forum has, I would say, played a very catalytic uh, role by actively driving MSME onboarding, whether it's on digital commerce platforms or advocating or enabling policy frameworks, promoting e commerce exports, building capacities through training, partnerships, and ecosystem interventions. All of these have helped enterprises transform from, I would say, offline to digital markets. With recent policy reforms, particularly in export facilitation, um, this entire shift has got accelerated. We're talking about a lot of the reforms talking about reducing challenges around platform dependency, pricing pressures, logistics costs, and compliance complexity, a little of which still remains. But therefore, we underscore the need for the next phase of e commerce to focus not just on access, but on sustainable competitiveness, which can drive scale for micro, small, medium enterprises. So, my friends, today we are joined by Mr. Gaurav Bhatnagar, who I will introduce, and we are going to talk to him. He leads the seller ecosystem. He leads sales in Amazon India. So a warm welcome to you, Gaurav ji. It's such a pleasure to have you here. We have all loads and loads of questions, and we would all like answers. So thank you for taking time off today and joining us here in this episode of Enterprise Matters.
Thank you, Vinod, and my pleasure to be joining here today along with you on such an important topic that we're discussing today. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. I'm going to go right into it. Amazon has been talking about fee revisions multiple times in the past few years. But this time, I think there's a lot of stress on exactly what a lot of the sellers have been talking about, especially those ones that have products which are at the lower end of the pricing spectrum. So, please enlighten us on what are the key changes as far as this revision goes.
Sure, Vinod. Thank you for asking that. We are at a very important juncture on this journey on e-commerce in India, and small and medium enterprises play a key pivotal role in the growth of the Indian economy, and we believe that we have a key role to play there. Uh, let me start with a very simple belief that has guided us across from day one, right? When our sellers succeed, we succeed, and that's the critical tenet that we work with. And today is really this belief that has shaped one of our most significant decisions we've made for sellers in India. uh, India's e-commerce digital story is really being written, as I said, by millions of small and medium enterprises. These are, many of them are actually from tier 2, tier 3 cities. uh, we believe our role as a marketplace is really to have these entrepreneurs uh, build the right economics, right tools, and enable with the right infrastructure to them to for them to grow sustainably, right? uh, Starting March 16, what has changed? We've introduced one of our most significant structural changes to the cost of selling business, and cost of selling on Amazon, right? A very big structural change. What we are doing, we're expanding our zero referral fees, which is the sell on Amazon commission, from products priced under 300, which is what we had done last year, if you would remember, to those priced under rupees 1000. So, therefore, increasing the coverage of this intervention tenfold, from 1.2 crore products, which we had done last year to zero fee, to 12.5 crore products across 1800 plus categories, right? What we've also done is that we've reduced our easy ship fees, which is a service which allows our sellers to have their products picked up from their premises, as a customer order comes in. The fees is now reduced by over 20% for products under 300 rupees. And again, that makes it particularly meaningful for small businesses fulfilling order from their own premises. Yeah. These changes, we believe, will enable sellers to see the total savings of up to 70%, freeing up capital. This is particularly important, right? Why this is important is that it helps sellers free up capital and reinvest in competitive pricing, expanding their selection, and true innovation that they want to do for reaching far more customers, and, of course, build greater promotions and scale their business. So if we just look at this, our shipment uh, our fee is in many ways, for fulfillment, is shipment based. So what it means is that sellers who use basket building promotions, like B2, buy two, get 10% off, or drive higher order values, can save up to 90% on selling fees for the second units onwards. And therefore, it compounds the fee savings above, right? Uh, I think what will bring alive this change is really a few concrete examples, right? So let me just maybe share a few. Let's say a seller is selling a fashion jewelry necklace priced at, let's say, 900 rupees, right? Uh, this seller will now save close to 200 rupees per unit, post this change, which is a very large, saving on the overall selling and the business that the seller is doing. If we look at earphones, let's say somebody who's pricing earphones at 800 rupees will possibly save now 139 rupees per unit, right? Which is nearly a 50% reduction in their fees overall. Uh, Somebody who's selling a t-shirt on 299, right, will again be able to further save about 15 rupees per unit, and therefore invest that back into their business and for them to grow their business, right? uh, so what I'm very excited about is the fact that for entrepreneurs just starting out, it's equally and even more meaningful. These savings can help differentiate between them experimenting with 10 products versus 100, right? And therefore, those who are looking at scale, it changes the maths completely, and the reinvestment and the growth that they can get out of it. And this is the exact kind of readiness that turns a small seller into a sustainable business. What are
I
we
get you. In fact, I wanted to
confident?
also, on the same line, Gaurav, I also wanted to ask you, now, do you feel that this change or this move is going to be more beneficial for new sellers or the ones that are existing on the platform already?
That's a very important point that you touched upon, Vinod, right? uh, the the big thing is that this revision impacts a very large share of our marketplace selection, over 12.5 crore products, and I talked about 1800 plus categories, right? and the broadest cost of selling reduction that we've introduced. Now, what it does is that it impacts new sellers and existing sellers alike, right? And of course, in different ways. Yeah, that's the benefit. So, for new sellers, particularly, they will now see much lower barriers to entry, and supported by this, zero fee and additional incentives that we've rolled out in this year, up to about 41,000 rupees, right? Including advertising credits, fulfillment fee support, and rewards for building selection, helping them gain very early momentum. And that's very important for a new entrepreneur, right? So, and we've seen that last year when we did this, we saw new sellers. The number of new sellers that came onto the platform significantly grew versus previous years, and we also saw significantly large number of them scale much faster and bigger, right? Uh, and of course, for existing sellers, whether it is small and high volume sellers, which is in the low ASP segments, which is, let's say, 0 to 300 segments, we do believe that they will benefit with these improved saving, making frequent and repeat purchases more viable because of lower prices that they will be able to offer to their customers, and of course, therefore, staying price competitive. Uh, we've also seen that sellers between 300 to 1000 ASP, which is, let's say, high ASP sellers, uh, and what they are able to do is really expand their selection and compete more effectively, right? Across the price bands, and which help them premiumize as well and build a very strong sustainable business model.
In fact, there have been also talks about various points in time that we've been doing these revisions, I would say. But do you feel this is a limited time fee change, or are you going to roll it back, or is it going to be only for a certain period of time? What are your comments on that?
This isn't a tactical adjustment or a promotional offer.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
represents a fundamental overall of our fee structure and a step change in the way how we are looking at enabling seller growth on amazon.in. uh, and therefore they are not promotional or time bound. The important thing is that we've systemically removed inefficiencies across our operations and are redesigning our cost architecture to make selling on Amazon more predictable, transparent, and therefore growth oriented for sellers of all sizes, right? So by eliminating these fees on lakhs of products that I just and crores of products that I talked about, the idea is to really meaningfully expand margin headroom for our sellers, and especially for small and medium businesses. And therefore, it's really about building structurally a more competitive marketplace that enables sellers to really deliver sharper value to millions of customers, right? So that's the way we are looking at this change.
Excellent. In fact, you talked about structurally creating a better, more conducive marketplace for micro, small, medium enterprises. So, how has the Amazon marketplace been evolving, uh, specifically for supporting seller growth across the various rural, urban areas, the major cities, the minor cities? There's so many categories and price points that India has throughout the country. So, and how do you see it evolving further?
Yeah, no, absolutely. uh, we are designing our marketplace to grow with the sellers, and because, as I said, right, when sellers succeed, we succeed, and that's the philosophy. So the fact is that one of the key things is really about ease of doing business, which is making sure that we're reducing friction for sellers as they scale, lower costs for them structurally, and putting the full power of e-commerce in their hands, both for new sellers and existing sellers for the long term, which helps them drive durable growth sustainably. Now, the important thing is that India's e-commerce journey is now going far beyond metros, clearly, right? Far beyond early adopters. It's a far more democratic, country in terms of customers choosing what they want to buy, where they want to buy, across tiers, not just in metros. Uh, Demand is becoming even more denser across tier 2, tier 3 markets, and we are seeing across everyday repeat purchase happening on e-commerce. So it is not just one trial, somebody is looking at buying one product and they're not coming back, but we're seeing significantly more repeat purchases coming up, right? Therefore, as this shift plays out, I think what is more important is that growth is really driven by frequency and value that is offered, right? Which is really affordability, rather than very specific, episodic spikes, once in a while sale, uh, right? Or maybe just a few events and promotions, right? Versus a more sustainable pricing that our sellers are able to offer to customers, and convenience that the platform is offer for their products to customers, right? So therefore, the idea for our approach is reduce frictions as sellers scale, simplify processes, bring in technology for sellers to be able to do their business every day, reach their customers, lower structural costs, and of course, adjust as customer behavior evolves. So this fee structure alignment really, in reality, ensures that more sellers are able to participate meaningfully at scale and build predictable, sustainable business. How do they do that? When they know this is not a promotion, this is my cost structure, this is my fee structure. Therefore, I can make my business model, my innovation model, my selection, my pricing, my inventory plan around a very clear, transparent fee model, right? And therefore, that is what we believe that um, is what this fee revision is aimed to deliver, right? Which is growth at scale and not just short term benefits, right? Uh, I think important is also the breadth, right? Which is not just few sellers or few categories, but broad based across categories and broad based across sellers, including geographies. Uh, what is really heartening is that when sellers in non metro markets can convert local demand into long term viable businesses, because they are closer to that, they understand what's happening
Very correct.
for their customers, the entire e-commerce ecosystem becomes healthier and more resilient. And therefore, that's what drives Amazon's own growth in India. So that's the philosophy, and that's the way we are seeing this evolve, us evolve as a marketplace.
I mean, so essentially, what you're talking about is that you are looking at uh, this as a mechanism beyond cost reduction, but enabling enterprises to become sustainable, competitive, at the same time have larger share in terms of the markets that they can actually enter into. In this, do you feel there are any other policy reforms that need to be made in the future, or that need to be worked on in the future to make things easier for the micro and small enterprises, which are, either though in areas that might be rural or, in semi-urban areas that need to be connected to mainland India, and, because their products can get a lot more traction online.
Right. So, I think two parts there. One is the role that we believe technology can play, right? And the way we are looking at tools and technology for our sellers, making it very easy for them to be able to list their products at the one click of, a button, take a picture from a camera of a product that you intend to launch. And then the Gen AI engines that we've built for sellers are able to create a listing in much lesser amount of time, accurate, which are search optimized, and then for them to be able to list and run and get live on the marketplace, right? From there on, to be able to also uh, using technology to be able to participate in events, promotions, which then depending on time of the year, the festivals that we celebrate as a country, sellers are able to then make sure that they have the right recommendations which they can leverage for business growth, right? So the idea is for us to be able to provide that advisory which sellers can leverage to build on innovations, build on plans, forecast, and essentially deliver what they intend to from a growth perspective on, let's say, time of the year and events that are coming up for their customers, right? So that's one space of technology, and there are multiple aspects that we've built, as such, right? In fact, in the recent Sambhav event that we concluded in December, we've renewed our pledge to actually enable over 15 million medium and small enterprises, to be able to leverage the benefits of artificial intelligence and help them grow and deliver great efficiencies and innovation for their business, right? So that's something which we've done, and we feel very good about how we believe that we have that role to play in that MSME ecosystem, right? I think the second place that we are partnering with, of course, policymakers is really in this space of, the area of GST, right? In terms of saying, how do we make it simpler for a small seller to be able to
Correct.
service demand very close to where their customers are. Today customers prefer that they can get their products very quickly, right? If they need to get their products very quickly, right, it requires their own inventory to be placed very close to the customers, right? And which requires their inventory to be placed, let's say if they were to be taking their inventory and taking a service of an Amazon warehouse, the sellers would like the inventory to be put in the Amazon warehouse closer to the customers of that state. Now for that, of course, the sellers require to take GST across multiple states, right? And of course, that's an area where the policymakers are working actively to say, how do we make it easy for small sellers in terms of GST and ease of doing business in the regulatory framework, and be able
Frameworks.
to therefore cater to this demand. So those are areas that the policymakers are also working on, while we are of course making sure that technology helps it very easy for sellers to be able to optimize their business model and of course work seamlessly to build growth, right? So those are the three things, as you rightly said, come together, right? There is an economic model, there is technology will help you become efficient, and then there is policy reforms which kind of come together for the sector to be able to grow disproportionately.
Excellent. I think what you have covered is the fact that, even as India SME Forum, that has been advocating continuously for reducing compliance and making the GST so much so easier. We're talking about 8 crore enterprises in India today, out of which only 1.2 crore, 1.225 crores are on GST. The remaining are still out of that ambit, which means they don't have access to markets beyond their own territories. And that is what needs to be brought forward. I think the government's intention has been very, very clear that they want to reduce compliance. They want to make it easier for people to do business. And with platforms like yours that are actually helping, organizations like us in first of all, taking this the feedback from sellers very, very carefully, going through it, analyzing it, and then coming up with a fee revision which is really up exactly where most of the people, if you ask me, a lot of people that have reported back and said, this is what we wanted, and it has happened. So thank you for that. And then again, thank you for spending your time with us. We are sure that a lot of the people will get to hear directly from you what was the intention behind this fee revision. So at a lot of the rumors around this, that this is only temporary and it is not meant for the new ones, and so on and so forth, so a lot of them will get quelled. Thank you again very much, Gauravji. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to continuing this discussion with you and to our engagement with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, my pleasure, and thank you so much, Vinod, for having us here.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.